What is up, everyone? Today we are going to be ranking every single faction in my favorite board game of all time, Root. Obviously, this list is going to be completely definitive and nobody else has the right answer. This is the correct list. If you see anything else, it's incorrect. But now that that's all out of the way, we can go ahead and dive right in. Now, starting up the list are the sneaky Corvid Conspiracy as the weakest faction in the game currently at number 8. Now, the reason why I put them there is because, these are the people that are laying down those secret bombs. They're putting down all of those plot tokens, and they've got a lot of little sneaky plans going on. But even with those sneaky plans, everybody else can see where those plot tokens are, and they all have an option to expose what plot token it is just by guessing and spending a card. And that can even give them a victory point. So everybody has a chance to get rid of these plot tokens, but also you can just get rid of them. And also, this is just a really loud way to signal exactly how many points the Corvid Conspiracy can get at any point in the game. And I think that's the biggest reason why I feel like they really struggle to win and close games. Now, with advanced setup, it does help them a lot. And I've seen them win a couple more games. I've seen them do better. I think it really does help. And I really do think that this faction has a lot of potential. I don't think it's a bad faction. I don't think any of these factions are bad factions. I want to preface by saying that. But the Corvid Conspiracy definitely out of the current lineup has got to be rank number 8, or the weakest faction currently in the game to me. But where does the Corvid Conspiracy stand in my personal ranking? The Corvid Conspiracy stands at rank number 7 for me, which is still pretty low. And it's not because I don't like them. Obviously, I love all these factions, but it's just because I haven't really played them as much as I would hope, really. I think if I gave them more time, if I devoted an entire month to just playing them every single game, maybe I would enjoy them more. But it just seems like every time I play them, I don't really have that much fun with the things that I have to do with them, like laying down the plots and getting them exposed. And yeah, it's just, I like them, but they're just not my favorite. So where are we gonna go to next? This is gonna bring us to my 7th strongest faction, or weakest, or however you want to put it. In the strength list, we've got the Lizard Cult at rank number 7. Now, the Lizard Cult are that druid-based religion, worshiping that dragon god, praying to the evil one, and sacrificing a lot of birds. That's the Lizard Cult for you. These lizards are super crazy, and essentially use a a hand manipulation strategy where they're going to be trying to get the best hand of cards and using those to reveal and do actions where they're going to be building gardens, and different paths of gardens are going to give you drawing cards. They're going to give you a lot of different options. And one of the main strategies with these guys is to get a lot of the same type of garden out. That way you can then spend a suited card instead of just revealing it to score. Now, the reason why they are so difficult and why they're so low at 7th place is because they just have a lot of odds against them. The whole deck management thing of how everyone can discard cards and influence the outcast, which, by the way, the outcast is a whole other thing where they can't even craft whatever cards they have in their hand if they want to. The outcast determines what cards they can craft, and that can make things really difficult as well. So I feel like it can just be very hard to win with the Lizard Cult, especially because you want the game to go on so long, because you need time to ramp up those points. The reason why I would put them above the Corvid Conspiracy, though, is because I believe that they just don't have as much knowledge of how much they can score. They have that element of surprise. They have that option to be sneaky with their scoring points, and they can make some big point swings, which can be really fun to see with the Lizard Cult. Now, where does the Lizard Cult stand in my personal ranking list? The Lizard Cult is actually ranked number 2 in my personal ranking list. I absolutely love playing the Lizard Cult. They are a blast. I love their theme, I love their color, and I love all the different strategies of hand manipulation, discarding cards to change that suit, and then you're hopeful to change the outcast suit and then go out onto the board, whether you're crusading or converting or sanctifying your opponent's buildings, turning them into gardens. They're just a blast to play, and I love that when you get that Lizard Cult win, it is one of the most satisfying experiences ever. Now, the faction who is the 6th most strong is going to be the Marquise de Cat. Now, the Marquise de Cat is basically playing an RTS game. They are trying to lay down sawmills, they're trying to put down buildings, and with each building, they're going to be getting victory points. And it's actually funny because in the original box, the Marquise de Cat is kind of said to be that beginner faction that people should play to kind of understand the game, when in reality, they are actually one of the hardest ones to win the actual game with. And that's just between, there's just so much you actually have to focus on taking care of, whether that's your wood line and making sure that your wood is actually able to travel to those clearings. No other faction has to worry about, can they build a building or not? Like where they can actually build the building. Even if they rule a location, sometimes they can't build the building just because they can't actually reach it with their wood line. And that's just a really complicated concept that no other faction has to really deal with. Also, the fact that you are the immediate threat on the board whenever you're playing, having the most units, it's pretty stressful, and you're going to be getting a lot of attacks early on, and that can really deter a lot of people from getting better with this faction. However, I just think that they have more options than the other two. They have more things that they can do. They have a very valid way of doing dominance victories. They also can increase themselves in any of their 3 different avenues of, rushing wood lines, or maybe rushing their recruiters in order to get more warriors out. Their crafting capabilities are not super bad, so they've got a lot of different options, and they can really tailor their strategy to whatever they need. But all in all, I'd still leave them at that 6th power ranked spot. Now, where do they stack up in my personal list? The Marquise de Cat stacks up at 4th place for me. I really, really like playing the Marquise de Cat. I enjoy them because of the brain burn that they are. They are such a puzzling faction, and every single time I play them, I feel like I have to approach it a different way. Who's at the table? Where am I starting? What corner? Or with advanced rules, what 3 clearings do I want my homeland clearings to be? This faction is just so much fun, and once in a while, I like to be a big cat bully and just maintain and rule the land and forest. So Marquise de Cat is 4th number spot in my personal ranking. Now, moving on to 5th place in the power ranking, we have got the Woodland Alliance. Now, this is the band of 3 different types of animals. You got the foxes, the rabbits, and the mice, and they are essentially trying to rebel within the woodland, attempting to basically gather support for their cause and overthrow the government. Usually the cats, sometimes the Eyrie. Pretty much everybody else is their enemy, and they are explosive. Now, why did I put them at 5th? I think it's because mostly when you know how they operate, the knowledge of this faction, when players know how they work, they can stop them from winning. They're kind of a game timer at the end of the day. And it's a timer that's kind of hard to stop, true, but there's still a timer, and other factions will win first if they race better and if they are able to stop the Woodland Alliance from gathering enough support or from spreading out too quickly. A really, really easy way to cut down a Woodland Alliance player is to just surround them with a lot of units. That way they have to spend so many resources in order to spread their sympathy. And once players know this, once players have this knowledge, when you start getting into really competitive play, it gets really hard to win with the Woodland Alliance. Now, if the table forgets their power, if they forget that they have that opportunity, they forget that they work like that, that this faction can get a lot of wins, and oftentimes this is the faction that gets a lot of wins when players just don't know much about the game. But with an experience table, I find that this faction is harder and harder to win with, but still I'd put it above obviously the other three. We know where it is. Now, where does the Woodland Alliance rank in my personal ranking? Viewers of this channel already know this is going to be my favorite faction, my number one. I absolutely love playing the Woodland Alliance. I just played them in the Root Winter Tournament and I was able to snag a win, which was super awesome. And you know, I really love this faction a lot. It takes a lot of table talk. It also takes a lot of strategy and making sure that you have the right cards. So it's a lot of hand management, timing, and making sure that you're rebelling in the right places. You don't want to overexpand, you don't want to underexpand. This is a faction that I've devoted a lot of time to, and I've played it probably the most out of every other faction because, you know, if nobody's going to take the Woodland Alliance, I'm taking the Woodland Alliance. So my favorite faction of all time, Woodland Alliance. And next in my power ranking, we have got the Underground Duchy. This is going to be 4th place in the power ranking. Now, the Underground Duchy is all about trying to get ministers. They're trying to sway them by being in certain clearings, just having pieces in certain clearings, and then revealing cards of those same suits in order to sway different ministers. They can be 2-card squires, 3-card nobles, or 4-card lords, and you're able to get all of these different special abilities, essentially building a tableau which actually expands your expands your faction's action pool. Now, the reason why the Underground Duchy is at 4th place is because their options are crazy. They've got a lot of different options in order to win the game, and oftentimes they can do things that can make it very hard for your opponents to defeat them. There's so many different variations of playstyle with this character, whether it's the small mole or the small to swole mole, essentially no buildings mole, or where you literally just don't build buildings, so therefore you don't have a disadvantage, or you burst and build a lot of buildings really quickly, or you burst and build so many moles that nobody wants to attack you and you just have like, you know, 15 moles in one clearing. I mean, there's just so many different directions that you can take with the Underground Duchy, and we've seen them gain so many wins because of that. Their options are amazing. Their crafting capability is really good as well. And so they're just above at that 4th rank spot. I still believe that there's 3 more factions more consistent than the Underground Duchy, but I still think that this is a very strong faction. Now, where do they land in my personal list? The Underground Duchy is my rank 6. And it's not that I don't like them. In fact, I love all the factions in this game, mostly. I think the reason why they're at my rank 6 is because I feel like they're almost too liquid. I don't know if that makes sense. I feel like sometimes when I'm playing them, my brain just doesn't connect with how they're meant to be played, and I'll get some good plays, I'll enjoy playing them, but I enjoy playing some other factions quite a bit more. I love the theming, I love the orange color, I love all of that. But yeah, I don't feel like I've connected with them as much as some of the other factions, and so that is why they are rank number 6 for me. Now, where are we at? We're at the top 3 here in power ranking. Next up is the Eyrie Dynasty. Now, the Eyrie Dynasties is rank number 3 out of the game, and the reason why is because they're just so consistent. I think that's the best word for them. They have got a very good path, and you just go down that path, you play your game as well as you can, and oftentimes it's really hard to stop them. The main way to stop an Eyrie player is to make them turmoil at their recruit, or essentially the first moment in their decree, because then they basically waste an entire turn. But a good Eyrie player can avoid getting put into turmoil at recruit by playing their cards right, by playing their positioning right. one of the best leaders in the game is the Despot, and essentially what you can do with that is you can get an extra victory point for every token. This is really great sometimes early game to gather and gain a lot of momentum in the early game, but it can also be a really good late game because there's a lot more tokens on the board. So the options are just really, really high. I love the fact that you can kind of turn your strategy depending on what leader you are taking as the Eyrie, depending on where you're at, depending on what cards you have, where your board position is at. This faction is very, very good at being present at the table, being very, very strong, and honestly, just a really fun faction to play. Besides the Warlords, which are the rats, which are not included in this list, this faction is the one that reminds me most of Zerg from StarCraft 2, which is why they originally kind of piqued my attention of, kind of swarming around the board, laying down their roosts automatically as they go, and just ramping up those points. Now, where do the Eyrie Dynasties land in my personal list? They are actually my number 3 as well. So another one of those where the faction is on both the same ranking in my personal and my power level ranking. I love playing these guys. They're so much fun. I love the options. I love just like planning out my roost lines and how do I want to do this one? Do I want to split my roosts? Do I want to make one long line straight down the middle? Do I want to go up the side of the wall and make them come to me? I mean, there's just so much fun here, and the Eyrie Dynasties is just a force to be reckoned with. If I'm trying to win the game, I really love going with the Eyrie Dynasties here. They're just so much fun. Now, where are we going? What is my number 2 in power ranking? It is going to be the Riverfolk Company. The Riverfolk Company is they're the tradesmen, they are able to trade services for essentially funds, and then they can use those funds as actions. Now, why am I putting the Riverfolk Company at second place overall, the most powerful? The reason is because their action economy can get crazy. If they can get even a few sales in the early game, every single one of those funds that they get can become an action for them to use, and their action economy can get really, really crazy, really, really fast. And the other thing is that they have the best card draw in the game. They can just draw cards throughout the deck and craft and craft and craft, and that is a huge asset within this game. In fact, one of the best strategies with this is just to mill the deck for the best crafting cards and then just craft them. And that's a really, really strong strategy. But if you don't have to worry about that, you can also go around the board kind of screwing over other people. You can put them in a position where they have to pay you funds in order for them to really operate fully. So there's just a lot of options there. And I've seen them win games when they shouldn't have. I've seen them win so many games, mostly because they're overfed. It's a whole joke, the overfed otters, when everybody's just buying from them. But the thing is, when they're in the game, it's so tempting to buy from them. And so they become so powerful because maybe it's because we make them powerful. I don't know. But I've seen them win so many games. They have to be second. In my personal opinion, that's where they land. Where are they at in my personal ranking, though? The Riverfolk Company in my personal ranking is number 5. So kind of somewhere in the middle. I love playing them. I love doing the Otterball strategy. You've seen that on my channel. I was able to show you guys that live. And just kind of all the different paths and avenues are really, really fun. And I also love the card draw. The card draw is really nice to actually feel like you can get through the deck if you need to. This faction's the one to play. You can really get a good idea. And if you need to know the decks inside and out and want kind of some good hints with that, a really good way to improve yourself is to watch my Root deck breakdown. I've got a link to it right up here. You can check that out. But that's definitely going to help you play this faction quite a bit better too, knowing what cards are left in the deck and what cards you can kind of mulligan for. So Riverfolk Company is my number 5th favorite faction to play. Now, what is the number 1 best faction in Root? You're going to get the answer to both the best and my least favorite faction in the game currently. That is going to be the Vagabond. Now, here's the thing. I said early on that I enjoy all of these factions. I might have lied a little bit, but not fully. I do enjoy the Vagabond. It's just that I don't enjoy the Vagabond as much as any of the other factions. And for me, why that really is the Vagabond doesn't really feel like I'm playing the same game of Root. I love the rule game that I have to worry about of, do I rule a clearing, and is this, am I in a good position? Is my civilization, built up correctly? Whereas with the Vagabond, you're just playing one pawn that doesn't have to worry about rule and runs around and causes havoc. Because of that, they are so powerful, because oftentimes they don't play by the rules that everybody else does. Just due to lack of understanding, people aren't going to play against the Vagabond as well, because they work so differently than the other factions. My whole thing is, the more knowledge you have about a game, the better you are at it. And I just feel like a lot of people don't really dive into the Vagabond as much, and therefore they're just going to be better at tables. But standalone, the more you know about the Vagabond, the better they are. Their action economy is really good. They've got options to just pick themselves right back up if they're smacked. Honestly, there's just so many options to victory. You can quest, you can go the infamy path, you can get hostile with all of the other factions, you can do more aiding and giving them cards, you can do the mixture of both and all three, which is kind of the best. Honestly, you just have so many paths at any given time of the game. And that's why the Vagabond is so good. But why do I not enjoy playing the Vagabond? I think it's just because they work differently than everyone else, and they don't worry about the issues that I enjoy puzzling through with this game, which is rule. It's maintaining multiple units and where should I move them and bring them out. And the Vagabond just doesn't fulfill that for me. Not that I don't love them. I do love to play the Vagabond once in a while. Seriously, I don't hate any of these factions. I've said it once, I've said it twice, I'll say it again. But my least favorite for sure. Thank you so much for watching the video today. I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know what you think. What is your personal ranking for this list? Comment down below and I will chat with you there. But thank you so much for watching. Let's go ahead and drop the beat.